Saturday evening, 6 p.m., 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. A 21-year-old walks up to a White House security checkpoint, pulls a weapon from his bag, and opens fire. Secret Service officers return fire. The gunman is killed. A bystander is hit. President Trump is inside the White House. This is the third time in 1 month that someone has fired shots near the president. And while the Secret Service managed that crisis, Trump was in the Oval Office, on the phone with the Middle East, claiming he'd just negotiated peace with Iran. Iran's response? Not so fast. This is the full signal. Every side, one truth. Let's start with what we know. Saturday evening, just after 6 p.m., a 21-year-old named Nasire approached a security checkpoint near the White House, one of the most protected buildings on Earth, and pulled a gun from his bag. He opened fire on Secret Service officers. They returned fire immediately. Best was killed at the scene. A bystander nearby was also struck. Reports Saturday night described their condition as critical. It remains unclear whether the bystander was hit by Best's rounds or by Secret Service fire. That investigation is ongoing. Trump was inside the White House at the time. Now here's where this story gets bigger than one incident. This is the third shooting-related security breach near the president in the past month. First, an incident near the White House Correspondents' Dinner in April. Second, a shooting near the Washington Monument earlier in May. And now this. 3 incidents in 30 days. That is not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And it's a pattern that raises serious questions about the state of political violence in America right now. Nasire Best was 21 years old. Early reports indicate he was from Maryland. Law enforcement sources have suggested possible mental health issues may have been a factor, though no motive has been officially confirmed as of this recording. What we do know is this: he got close enough to a White House checkpoint to draw a weapon and fire at federal agents. That alone demands answers. One detail that caught our attention: Trump had reportedly changed his weekend plans in the days prior, choosing to stay at the White House rather than travel to his New Jersey golf club. He was inside when the shots were fired. We do not know if the schedule change was security-related. But given this is the third incident, it's a question worth asking. The Secret Service will face a reckoning over this. 3 incidents in 30 days means either there is a dramatic escalation in threats against the president, or there are gaps in the security perimeter that are being exploited. Possibly both. We will be watching for the official report. But here's the thing. While Secret Service officers were processing a shooting on Pennsylvania Avenue, the President of the United States was on the phone, claiming he'd solved a war. On the same day shots were fired at the White House gate, President Trump made an announcement that, if true, would be one of the most consequential diplomatic developments in decades. He claimed the United States had largely negotiated a deal with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He described it as, in his words, a Memorandum of Understanding pertaining to peace. Those were his capital letters, by the way, not ours. Let's put this in context. The Strait of Hormuz has been in crisis since February. Iran's seizure campaign, at least 5 vessels in 90 days, effectively shut down normal passage through one of the most critical choke points in the global oil supply. 20% of the world's oil moves through that strait. The economic disruption has been severe. Oil prices spiked. Inflation followed. Global shipping rerouted at enormous cost. A deal that genuinely reopened the strait would be massive. Trump said Saturday that details will be announced shortly. He cited a marathon round of Oval Office calls. 9 countries, according to the White House: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain, and Israel. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was traveling in India at the time, echoed the tone. He told reporters that some progress had been made. Careful language. Note what he did not say. He did not say the deal was done. He did not say it was largely negotiated. He said some progress. That gap between Trump's framing and Rubio's framing is worth sitting with for a moment. Largely negotiated and some progress are not the same thing. What Trump claims is in the deal, an agreement for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen. The structure he described is a Memorandum of Understanding, which, in diplomatic terms, is a preliminary statement of intent, not a treaty, not a binding agreement, a memo. That framing matters enormously, because there is a long history in international diplomacy of leaders announcing frameworks, MOUs, and understandings, and having them collapse before ink is ever put to a final document. There's another layer to this that Trump's announcement didn't address. China has operated under a separate bilateral arrangement with Iran throughout this crisis, a deal that allowed Chinese tankers to transit the strait while Western vessels faced seizure. If a broader Hormuz deal is struck, China's position in that arrangement becomes a key variable. Does their exemption end? Do they gain formal recognition of a privileged role? That question hasn't been answered publicly. So we have a president declaring peace largely negotiated, a Secretary of State describing progress, and a China factor quietly sitting in the background. Now let's go to Iran. Within hours of Trump's announcement, Iran responded, and the response was a masterclass in diplomatic contradiction. Iran did not deny that talks had occurred. They did not call Trump a liar outright. What they did was systematically dismantle every major claim in his announcement, while leaving just enough ambiguity to keep talks alive. Trump said, largely negotiated. Iran said, framework agreement. Trump said, Memorandum of Understanding pertaining to peace. Iran said, details require 30 to 60 more days of negotiations. Trump implied, the strait is reopening. Iran said, the Strait of Hormuz remains under Iranian control. The United States, and I'm quoting here, has nothing to do with it. That last line is crucial. Iran isn't just disputing the timeline. They're disputing the fundamental premise. The U.S. framing implies America brokered a deal that opened an international waterway. Iran's framing says, the strait is ours, and what happens in it is an Iranian decision. Those are not compatible narratives. They cannot both be true. Iran also laid out their actual demands, and they are substantial. First, an end to what they describe as war on all fronts. That's a broad ask that includes cessation of any military pressure or threat. Second, the lifting of sanctions, not a reduction, not a phased approach, the lifting of sanctions. Third, and this is significant, Iran explicitly stated that nuclear issues are not part of the current talks. That's a direct contradiction to what many in the Trump administration have suggested they want from any Iran agreement. Think about what that means. The core strategic concern the United States has regarding Iran, its nuclear program, is off the table, according to Iran, in any deal being discussed right now. So what exactly is being negotiated? A framework for reopening a waterway without touching the weapons program, without full sanctions relief terms agreed, without a timeline, announced on the same day as a White House shooting, and described very differently by both sides. To understand why this gap exists and whether any real deal is possible, we need to look at where this war actually stands. We are 3 months into this conflict. 3 months since Iran began its seizure campaign in the Strait of Hormuz. 3 months since global oil prices began their climb. 3 months since the international shipping industry began rerouting billions of dollars in cargo around the Cape of Good Hope. The economic toll is real, it is measurable, and it is landing on ordinary people. Inflation is at its highest level in years. Energy costs are up. the compounding effect of a disrupted oil supply on everything from food transportation to manufacturing to airline tickets. That's not theoretical. It's on receipts. In that time, there have been at least 5 vessels seized or sunk, including the Haji Ali, an Indian cargo vessel that was sunk on May 14th. 14 crew members were rescued. There have been 2 ceasefire attempts that did not hold. The first, a 2-week ceasefire negotiated in early April that broke down. The second, a 3-day pause from May 9th to 11th, which also failed to transition into a broader agreement. Both collapses followed the same pattern. Each side accused the other of violating terms before the ink dried. That pattern matters when evaluating Trump's announcement this weekend, because the question isn't just whether a deal is possible, it's whether the enforcement mechanisms and the political will exist on both sides to make one hold. Within the United States, the politics are complicated. Republican senators, typically aligned with any Trump foreign policy position, have privately and publicly expressed concern about what they describe as American weakness in this conflict. The argument from that wing of the party is simple. Iran has been seizing Western vessels for 3 months, and the United States has not responded with sufficient force to stop it. From that perspective, a deal that doesn't include firm mechanisms for enforcement, that leaves sanctions lifting as an open question, and that explicitly excludes the nuclear program, looks less like a victory and more like capitulation dressed up in a press release. Meanwhile, regional actors are hedging their bets. The UAE, sitting directly in the crossfire, has accelerated plans for a bypass pipeline, a 370-kilometer route connecting Abu Dhabi to Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, bypassing the strait entirely. Target completion, 2027. The fact that UAE is building a permanent bypass while simultaneously participating in Trump's diplomatic calls tells you something important. They're negotiating for peace while engineering for the assumption that peace might not hold. And lest we forget, Iran's foreign minister said publicly just weeks ago that ships must cooperate with Iranian forces to transit the strait. That is not the language of a government that sees the strait as internationally neutral territory. It's the language of a government that sees it as leverage. We are 3 months into this conflict. 3 months since Iran began its seizure campaign in the Strait of Hormuz. 3 months since global oil prices began their climb. 3 months since the international shipping industry began rerouting billions of dollars in cargo around the Cape of Good Hope. Inflation is at its highest level in years. Energy costs are up. The compounding effect of a disrupted oil supply on everything from food transportation to manufacturing to airline tickets, that's not theoretical. It's on receipts. In that time, there have been at least 5 vessels seized or sunk, including the Haji Ali, an Indian cargo vessel that was sunk on May 14th. 14 crew members were rescued. There have been 2 ceasefire attempts that did not hold. The first, a 2-week ceasefire negotiated in early April that broke down. The second, a 3-day pause from May 9th to 11th, which also failed to transition into a broader agreement. Both collapses followed the same pattern. Each side accused the other of violating terms before the ink dried. That pattern matters when evaluating Trump's announcement this weekend. Because the question isn't just whether a deal is possible, it's whether the enforcement mechanisms and the political will exist on both sides to make one hold. Within the United States, the politics are complicated. Republican senators, typically aligned with any Trump foreign policy position, have privately and publicly expressed concern about what they describe as American weakness in this conflict. The argument from that wing of the party is simple. Iran has been seizing Western vessels for 3 months, and the United States has not responded with sufficient force to stop it. From that perspective, a deal that doesn't include firm mechanisms for enforcement, that leaves sanctions lifting as an open question, and that explicitly excludes the nuclear program, looks less like a victory and more like capitulation dressed up in a press release. Meanwhile, regional actors are hedging their bets. The UAE, sitting directly in the crossfire, has accelerated plans for a bypass pipeline, a 370-kilometer route connecting Abu Dhabi to Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, bypassing the strait entirely. Target completion, 2027. The fact that UAE is building a permanent bypass while simultaneously participating in Trump's diplomatic calls tells you something important. They're negotiating for peace while engineering for the assumption that peace might not hold. And lest we forget, Iran's foreign minister said publicly just weeks ago that ships must cooperate with Iranian forces to transit the strait. That is not the language of a government that sees the strait as internationally neutral territory. It's the language of a government that sees it as leverage.